So guys, October 2025, the New Day, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods sat down with WWE and signed a multi-year contract extensions. Kingston reportedly locked in throughout 2030. These weren't legends being kept around out of respect. They were active members of the most decorated tag team in WWE history being told, "We want you here." Fast forward this to 7 months though, on May 2nd of 2026, they're gone. Not because the contracts expired, no. Not because they asked out, no. But because TKO came back to the table, looked at the deals they had already negotiated and finalized, and asked the New Day to restructure to the new TKO terms. The New Day said no, and WWE granted their release. So strap in, because the story goes deeper than the headlines perceive. Welcome to the Tea Drop. Strong brew and no soft behavior. Today, we are laying out the full picture that we know so far when it comes to the New Day's departure from WWE. The creative failures that set this up, the contract move that TKO allegedly pulled on an already signed deal, and the question that nobody in the IWC is answering yet. Who saves the WWE's men's tag division now? Let's get into this drop. Before we get to the receipts, and the receipts are right here, let me make sure everybody understands what WWE just let walked out the door. July 1st, 2014, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E debuted as the New Day on Monday Night Raw. And y'all know the initial reaction was rough. Fans rejected the happy-go-lucky gospel presentation immediately. You want to talk about some creative team struggling with black talent? This was potentially the warning sign. Chapter 1, shall we say. But here's what made the New Day different from most acts that get a bad debut. They adapted. They leaned into the trombone, the unicorn horns, the pancakes, the anime references. They made the crowd love them by being unapologetically themselves. And once WWE got out of their way, historic 13 WWE Tag Team title reigns, the most in company's history. 7 SmackDown Tag title reigns, the most ever. 483-day Raw Tag title reign, the longest ever. Kofi himself is a former WWE champion, the first African-born world champion in WWE history, 4-time Intercontinental champion, 3-time United States champion. He has been with WWE since 2006, nearly 20 years. Xavier Woods, King of the Ring winner, signed in to WWE in 2010, been holding it down for 15 years. And Big E, one of the best pure baby faces this generation's produced. His in-ring career ended in March 2022 when he suffered a broken neck. He never got the proper send-off he deserved. That's a separate tea drops entirely though. Two things can be true at the same time when it comes to this situation. The New Day earned their place in WWE history, and WWE failed them on the way out. But before I tell you how, I gotta tell you why this one hits differently for me personally. Now, I want to step out of the analyst chair for a minute because I cannot tell you this story without telling you my story. Everyone, I've been watching Kofi Kingston since his debut. I'm talking about the Jamaican accent era, the boom boom entrance, the bright neon gear, the trampoline kick-ups, the energy. WWE didn't know what they had yet, but the fans did. Even back then, you could feel it. This dude was different. And then came the run that built the legend, the mid-card run that most performers would kill for. Intercontinental champion, United States champion, tag titles before even the New Day was ever a thought. Decorated, underrated, always over. But let me ask you something. What was your Royal Rumble tradition? Because for me, every January, the thing I was waiting for, the thing I was anticipating before the buy-in even started was the Kofi Kingston save. The dude turned an elimination spot into an appointed television moment. The handstand save, the chair save, the wall run with Biggie catching him. He took a 30-second or so moment into a 60-minute match and made it the most replayable clip of the night every single year for WWE. It wasn't just about his athleticism. That guy understood the assignment better than 99% of the locker room most of the time. And then 2019 happened. Kofi Mania. Guys, me and my wife, at the time she was my girlfriend, we lived through that storyline together. Every week on SmackDown, every week on Monday Night Raw, the gauntlet match where he went over for an hour, Vince McMahon putting roadblock after roadblock in front of him. The Fastlane handicap match, the protest from the locker room, the New Day or No Day energy on that build. We were totally invested in that storyline. We were already going to WrestleMania that year. We bought the tickets and everything. We obviously were going to make that trip to MetLife Stadium. But I need you to understand the weight of that night for us, because the story WWE was telling wasn't just, can this guy win the WWE Championship? It was the story underneath it. The one fans like us were carrying in our chests for months was, will WWE finally let a black man hold the biggest prize in this company? And when Kofi hit the Trouble in Paradise on Daniel Bryan, when that referee's hand hit the mat for the third time, that was one of the most glorious moments that I've ever experienced in a live event. Because when 82,000 people in MetLife Stadium erupted, and I'm telling you, they erupted, that kind of pop you feel in your chest before you even hear it. Because that moment was, it stopped. And for me and my future wife, we cried. Right there. Section by section, you could see grown adults crying with joy, happiness, because we had just watched for the very first time in WWE history an African black man hold up the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. The biggest prize at the biggest stage. With his kids running into the ring, hugging him, being happy with him, enjoying that moment. For me and my wife, that's a core memory. It is not just a wrestling moment for me. It's beyond that. It's a life moment that I was able to share with the woman I would eventually marry. That's a moment my wife and I will tell any of our future generations about. That's the night Kofi Kingston made history and let a whole lot of fans feel seen at the same time. So when I tell you this New Day release hits differently for a lot of us, I need you to understand it's not just about contracts and tag team divisions and corporate receipts. It's about a man who gave us moments, who gave us memories, who earned every bit of legacy he carries. And that's what makes what comes next so hard to talk about, because the way Triple H's creative team and Nick Khan handle Kofi Kingston in 2025 and 2026, the New Day, after everything I just told you, it hurts. It hurts to see it happen in front of us. So anyway, strap in, because this is where the love story turns into a failure story. All right, so let's build this, because the contract situation doesn't exist in a space vacuum. You don't walk away from a deal you just signed 7 months ago unless something was already wrong. And the creative track record under Triple H's team tells you exactly what was already wrong. After Big E's injury, the question was, what do you do with Kofi and Xavier? Two proven performers, two guys over with the crowd. Two guys who know how to work a promo, work a match, and work a room. Here's what actually happened. WWE floated the idea of adding Odyssey Jones as a third member to rebuild the New Day. It got teased, it got dropped. Jones unfortunately ran into legal issues. Fair enough. But here's where it gets really interesting. The story doesn't end there. Big E himself attempted to return as a manager for the group, but not as a wrestler, just as a presence to help keep the brand alive. That idea was rejected backstage. Where in the hell does that make sense? You have a beloved over character, one of the most recognizable figures the group has ever produced, willing to come back in a non-wrestling capacity to protect his partners, and the creative team said no. Then came the heel turn. And guys, the New Day heel turn had potential. The build was there. The audience, for the most part, was ready for it. And then it went absolutely nowhere. The turn was initiated. The heat was minimal. The follow-through, though, was non-existent. And let me ask you something. What was Kofi Kingston's last match in WWE? I'll tell you. It's April 17 of 2026 on SmackDown. He was teaming with Grayson Waller in a failed attempt to win the tag team titles. It wasn't nothing. It was not even a feature rivalry, not a retirement angle that we would have been aware of, not even a proper goodbye match, to be honest. A spot on the card that said everything about how this regime viewed Kofi Kingston in 2026. Xavier Woods, well, Xavier Woods was sidelined with a shoulder injury. His last match in WWE was a dark match at the Royal Rumble, apparently. Not even on the broadcast. 2 13-time tag team champions. Legends by any measurable standard. The man I watch make history at MetLife Stadium. And that was the creative reality waiting for them when TKO walked back in and asked them to restructure their contracts. Their bargaining position had already been weakened by the people who were supposed to protect it. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and I need you to pay attention to how this goes down. Now, according to Brian Alvarez of Wrestling Observer, and I'm quoting directly, so the receipts are, as always, right there. New Day's deal were not up. They were asked to restructure to TKO's deals. They didn't like the deals, so they were then granted their release. As you can see, that's not a rumor. This was not the New Day asking out. This was not a mutual creative departure. TKO, the parent company that took over WWE in September 2023 merger, asked 2 performers who had already signed multi-year extensions already in October of 2025 to tear those contracts up and sign the new TKO structure deals. Reportedly, Kofi Kingston was locked in through 2030. 7 months into that deal, TKO came back and said restructure. And rightfully so, the New Day said no. 2 things, as always, can be true at the same time. This was their choice, and TKO put them in a position where their choice was walk or take a pay cut on an already negotiated and agreed upon contract. Let me ask you, what would you do? Because there's a pattern here that the IWC needs to start paying attention to very clearly. This isn't the first time post-merger TKO has come back to talent on signed contracts and pushed for restructuring. The acceleration of departure since WrestleMania 42, we're talking, I guess at this point, 31 superstars released or departed in 2026 alone. That's not an organic growth or degrowth or whatever you will call it. That's a business restructuring playbook being run through a wrestling roster. And the New Day just became the biggest name to say, not on our terms. But why is TKO running this play in the first place? Why squeeze a 20-year veteran like Kofi 7 months after he signed and agreed to a contract with you? The receipts on those questions, those are about to make every single piece of this make sense. Now, I want you to sit with a number for a second. Because if you watch my breakdown on the TKO executive pay receipts, and if you didn't, I'll drop the link in the description below, so go check it out. You already know, if you watched it, where this is going. The 2025 compensations for 3 TKO executives Ari Emanuel, executive chair and obviously CEO of TKO, got a nice check of $67.4 million, up from $18.1 million the year before, 2024. Let that sink in for a bit. A roughly $50 million raise in a single year. Mark Shapiro for 2025, the president and CEO of TKO, $42.6 million. A $4 million base, $12 million in bonuses, 25.8 million in stocks. Our good boy Nick Khan, president of WWE, $24.3 million, including a $3.7 million bonus specifically tagged for his help on the launch of Zuffa Boxing. Combined, $134 million. 3 men on 1 year. WWE's total revenue that same year was $1.7 billion. The performers, about 130 men and women on the roster, received approximately 15% of that. Compare that to the NFL or NBA, where players take 50%. The WNBA target is 20%. The WWE talent is sitting at 15%. So here's the math nobody at TKO wants on screen. 15% of 1.7 billion is roughly 255 million split across 130 performers. The 3 executives took 134 million for themselves. There's obviously more executives that we're not talking about. Probably we need to adjust with that math. Overall, though, this means that these 3 men, in addition to the other executives in 2025, made, let's just say 50 cents or 52 cents for every single dollar earned by every WWE performer combined. And now we're in 2026, and TKO is already asking the New Day, a 2-decade veterans, 13-time tag team champions, the man who made Kofi Kingston, the man who made me cry at MetLife Stadium, to restructure their already signed deals to less favorable TKO terms. Where the hell does that make sense, guys? I'll tell you. In a WWE, actually, scratch that. Let me ask you something. After payroll record-breaking executive compensation 2025, what does TKO need going into 2026? More? More margin? More bonus triggers? More stock vesting or something? And where does that more come from? It doesn't come from the executive side. It comes from the product. It comes from talent contracts. It comes from the PLE production budgets. It comes from sponsors. It comes from graphic packages, set designs, video packages, road crew costs, the broadcast quality you're actually watching every week. It comes from the WWE Performance Center pipeline. It comes from cuts to the very thing that generates the $1.7 billion in the first place. TKO has every legal right to manage costs how they see fit. And fans paying premium price for PLEs while watching the product visibly thin out every other thing you see have every right to ask where the money is actually going. Now, as far as I can see, the receipts are right there. 3 executives and the others, at least the 3 executives we care for, are making a combined $134 million. And they requested a New Day to take less going into 2026. Now, here's where I land on all of this at this point. This isn't a New Day story anymore. This is a direction of the product story. The New Day are just the most recognizable name on a release sheet that included Tonga Loa, JC Mattel, the Wyatt Six, Aleister Black, and 31 total WWE departures in 2026 alone. They're not even doing housekeeping at this point. This is just them doing a margin payoff play. And the people paying for it aren't the executives. It's the talent. And it's you, the audience watching a product that increasingly looks like it's being squeezed for shareholders' optics. Now, the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, went on X immediately. My boys, the New Day, love Us. These are guys who feuded with the New Day rivals, and they showed up first on X. MJF on Instagram stories, he put a post saying, "It's a new day, yes it is." The most deliberate troll in wrestling, doing the most liberal recruiting post in wrestling history. Read that room, because the Elites versus the New Day is a money seller. FTR's Cash Wheeler, who worked against the New Days as the Revival in WWE, tweeted, "God damn, it's a new day. God damn." As always, that's competitors showing love. Here's why I land on this. When the people who competed against you are the ones loudest in the corner, on your corner on the way out, that's legacy. That's their reputation showing. That's what 13 title reigns and 2 decades of consistent builds gives you. Now, drop your answers in the comments. Where do you think the New Day lands first after the 90-day non-compete expires on July 31st? Let me know in the comments and we can talk it out more. My final take in all this, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods didn't leave because they wanted to. They left because TKO, fresh off paying 3 executives $134 million in 2025, came back and asked them to take less on a deal they already signed. Triple H's creative team has spent 2 years, as far as we can see, diminishing their booking position in the whole roster. TKO's financial team finished the job at the negotiating table. And the part that should make every wrestling fan sit up straight right now, this isn't going to stop with the New Day. When the executives' comp ratio is 52 cents for every dollar, the entire roster earns combined, then the pressure to extract more from the product going into 2026 is going to be structural. It's baked in at this point, and that pressure shows up as the cuts to PLE production, cuts to graphics, cuts to the talent depth, storytelling, cuts to the product quality you're paying for. So when somebody tells you this is just business, ask them whose business, because the receipts are right there. For me, I always have MetLife. I always have Kofi holding the championship up proudly. I always have my wife's hand in mine and tears on both of our faces watching history happen. They can cut the contract, but they can't cut my memory. The 90-day non-compete runs through July 31st. After that, we will see where in the wrestling world these two men will go. This is the Tea Drop. Strong brew, no soft behavior. Thanks for watching. If the tea hit right, hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.